The farthest corner of Nebula Station's maintenance level wasn't meant for habitation. The air tasted metallic, recycled countless times through aging filters. Exposed pipes leaked condensation that pooled on the grated floors, and the constant hum of machinery drowned out all but the loudest conversations. Yet this forgotten space had become home to Lyra. Her purple skin, naturally adorned with delicate scale patterns along her shoulders and spine, seemed dull under the flickering emergency lights. Once, those scales had shimmered like amethysts under the twin suns of her homeworld. Now, covered in grime and station dust, they had lost their luster. Just as Lyra had lost her place among both her people and the station's residents. Move along. Scaleskin, a merchant, barked when Lyra approached his food stall. He waved his hand in front of his nose dramatically. You're driving customers away with that stench? Lyra lowered her eyes. Clutching the few tokens she had earned from unclogging waste pipes that only worked anyone would give her. Her stomach cramped with hunger, but she backed away without argument. This rejection had become routine over the 8 months since she'd arrived on the station administrator had allowed her to stay only because her species possessed natural resistance to radiation, making her useful for emergency repairs in the station's reactor sections. But he hadn't provided quarters or rations. You should be grateful we let your kind dock here at all, he'd told her, after her small transport vessel had limped into their hangar, damaged and nearly out of fuel. In her makeshift shelter, Lyra unwrapped a half-eaten protein bar she'd salvaged from the waste reclamation unit. The sweet chemical taste made her wince, but she forced herself to eat slowly, making each bite last. Her water ration was nearly empty. Tomorrow, she would have to brave the communal washing station during night cycle, when fewer residents would be around to mock her. The scale pattern across her back itched terribly. Without proper bathing facilities or the special oils her species used, her once smooth scales had become irritated and rough. Some had even begun to flake off, adding to her disheveled appearance. Just temporary, Lyra whispered to herself in her native tongue, a habit she'd developed to keep from forgetting the musical language of her homeworld. Save enough for passage. Find a better place. But the tokens came slowly, and emergency repair work was dangerous and sporadic. At this rate, she might be trapped on Nebula Station for years, as the station's artificial night cycle dimmed the already weak lighting. Lyra curled onto her thin sleeping mat. The dreams came as they always did, memories of her family's garden, with its sweet-scented blossoms, the warm embrace of her mother, the laughter of her siblings. She woke with dampness on her cheeks, a mixture of tears and condensation from the pipe above her shelter. Another day on Nebula Station had begun, and with it, another round of stares, whispers, and rejection. Lyra straightened her tattered clothing and steeled herself for what lay ahead. Survival was all that mattered now. Dignity was a luxury she could no longer afford. The maintenance corridors echoed with the rhythmic clanking of tools against metal as Elian Mercer made his rounds. 6 months into his 2-year contract as environmental systems engineer on Nebula Station, he developed a routine that kept him mostly solitary, exactly how he preferred it. Tall, with broad shoulders and calloused hands. Elian communicated more through actions than words, which often made others uncomfortable. Today's task brought him to the lower decks, where few ventured willingly. As he turned a corner, he spotted a flash of purple disappearing behind a junction box. He'd heard rumors about the alien woman living in the maintenance shafts, but had dismissed them as station gossip. "Hello?" he called softly. "I'm just here to check the atmospheric regulators." No response came, but he sensed her presence. Elian continued his work, methodically examining each component. When he finished, he pulled a wrapped nutrition bar from his pocket and placed it on top of the junction box. The air quality is poor down here, he said to the seemingly empty corridor. Not enough oxygen circulation. I'll adjust it tomorrow. Then he walked away without looking back. The next day, Elian returned with his toolbox and a small package. The nutrition bar was gone. He worked silently, increasing the airflow to the neglected section. As he finished, he caught sight of her purple skin, luminous eyes watching him cautiously from behind a tangle of pipes. "I'm Elian," he said, not approaching her. I brought something. He unwrapped the package, revealing a container of water purification tablets and a small bottle of cleaning solution. Lyra emerged partially, suspicion evident in her posture. Why? Her voice surprised him, imelodic despite its raspy edge from disuse. Because it's the right thing to do, Elian answered simply. Over the next week, Elian made daily visits to the lower decks, always bringing something small, clean fabric, food rations, a portable heating unit. Gradually, Lyra began waiting for him, their conversations growing from tense monosyllables to genuine exchanges. They say your kind smells, Elian stated bluntly one day, but it's not you. It's these conditions. Anyone would struggle here. Lyra's shoulders tensed. My scales. Without proper care, they develop a protective layer that has an odor. On my world, we use special baths and oils. Elian nodded thoughtfully. I could help with that. Lyra stared at him, searching for mockery or ulterior motives, but finding none in his steady gaze. For the first time since arriving at the station, hope flickered within her. The small washroom in Elian's quarters hummed with steam as he filled the tub with warm water. He had traded 3 days' rations for a container of multi-purpose cleansing oil from the station's luxury goods merchant. Lyra stood awkwardly at the threshold, arms wrapped protectively around herself. I haven't. It's been so long, I'll give you privacy, Elian said, placing towels beside the tub. Wait. Alia's voice trembled slightly. In my culture, bathing is often assisted by family members. The scales on my back, I can't reach them properly. Understanding dawned on Elian's face. I'll help, but only where you need it. The ritual that followed was conducted with respectful care. Lyra submerged herself in the warm water while Elian knelt beside the tub, gently working the cleansing oil into the dull scales along her shoulders. Years of engineering work had made his touch precise firm enough to remove the buildup of grime, but gentle enough not to cause discomfort. These are beautiful, he murmured as the scales began to reveal their true color, a deep, shimmering violet that caught the light in iridescent patterns. Lyra closed her eyes, memories washing over her with the warm water. On Lysaria, my homeworld, scales like these were considered marks of good fortune. The more intricate the pattern, the more blessed the person. Then you must be very blessed, Elian replied, working carefully around the delicate edges where scales met smooth skin. As the bath continued, Lyra shared stories of her world, the floating cities built on massive lily-like plants, the coming-of-age ceremonies where young Lysarians received their first scale oils as gifts from elders, the musical language that changed with the seasons in turn. Elian spoke of his isolated childhood on an agricultural dome on Mars, his fascination with environmental systems that led him to space engineering, and his preference for machines over people. They're honest, he explained. They don't judge or pretend. When the bath was complete, Lyra emerged transformed. Her purple skin glowed with health, and her scales shimmered with their natural brilliance. The rancid odor had disappeared, replaced by the subtle, pleasant scent of the cleansing oil. Elian provided clean clothes he had modified to accommodate her slightly different physiology. When Lyra caught her reflection in the small mirror above his sink, her breath caught. For the first time in nearly a year, she recognized herself that evening. They shared a meal in Elian's quarters, simple station rations that tasted like a feast too. Lyra. Their conversation flowed easily now, punctuated by comfortable silences. You could stay here, Elian suggested tentatively. It's small, but better than the maintenance shaft. Lyra looked up, surprise evident in her luminous eyes. People would talk. Let them, Elian shrugged. I've never cared what people think. As artificial night fell across the station, Lyra made a decision that would change both their lives. She reached across the table and took Elian's hand in hers, her purple fingers intertwining with his tan ones. Thank you, she said, the words carrying the weight of months of isolation and newfound hope. For seeing me when no one else would. Nebula Station's central marketplace buzzed with the usual morning activity, merchants arranging wares, maintenance crews fixing persistent leaks, and station residents bartering for necessities. Elian walked beside Lyra, whose presence drew immediate attention. Not because of any foul odor that was long gone, but because of her stunning transformation. Her purple skin gleamed with health, and the scale patterns that traced her exposed shoulders caught the light in mesmerizing ripples. She wore a modified station jumpsuit that Elian had tailored to fit her form, and her long, silvery hair was braided neatly down her back. "Everyone's staring," Lyra whispered, instinctively moving closer to Elian. "Let them," he replied, his hand finding the small of her back in a subtle gesture of support. "We're just getting supplies." At a textile stall, the merchant who had once shooed Lyra away now stared in confusion. "Is that the scale skin from the lower decks?" he asked Elian directly, as if Lyra couldn't understand. "Her name is Lyra," Elian said firmly, selecting fabric that matched the violet hue of her scales. "And we'll take 3 meters of this." Word spread quickly throughout the station. The alien woman from the maintenance shafts was living with the quiet human engineer from environmental systems. Some whispered it was a health violation, others claimed Elian must be under some alien influence, and a few even suggested that he had tamed her like some exotic pet. After a month of cohabitation, their routine had fallen into comfortable synchronicity. Lyra had begun helping with simple maintenance tasks, her natural radiation resistance making her invaluable for certain repairs. In the evenings, they would share meals and stories, their knowledge of each other deepening with each passing day. The first kiss happened. Naturally, Lyra laughing at Elian's dry observation about the station administrator's pompous speeches. Elian captivated by the musical quality of her laughter. He leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away, but she met him halfway. Her lips were warmer than a human's, and the sensation sent pleasant shivers through them both. "I've wanted to do that for weeks," Elian admitted afterward. His typically stoic expression softened with affection. "Unless area." "We have a saying," Lyra responded, her fingers tracing the line of his jaw. "When hearts align, distance disappears." Their relationship blossomed in private, but public scrutiny intensified. One morning, Elian found a crude note attached to their quarters door, "Station for humans only. Aliens and sympathizers should leave." He disposed of it before Lyra could see, but similar incidents followed. Equipment they needed for repairs would mysteriously disappear. Ration allocations were accidentally reduced. Station security conducted unexpected inspections of their living quarters, citing anonymous complaints. The situation escalated when Chief Administrator Voss summoned Elian to his office. The administrator, a thin man with perpetually pursed lips, wasted no time with pleasantries. "Engineer Mercer, your arrangement with the alien female has become problematic. Several station residents have expressed concerns about interspecies cohabitation." "Our relationship violates no station regulations," Elian replied evenly. "Perhaps not technically," Voss conceded, "but it disrupts station harmony. I've arranged 4 separate quarters for the alien in the designated non-human sector." Elian's expression hardened. "Her name is Lyra, and she stays with me." "That's not a request, engineer." Voss's voice cooled. "Additionally, her work authorization is limited to emergency repairs, only supervised emergency repairs." Elian left the meeting with a simmering anger he rarely experienced. That night, as Lyra curled against him in their small bed, her body fitting perfectly against his, he made a decision. "We should leave Nebula Station," he said quietly into the darkness. Lyra propped herself up on one elbow, her luminous eyes searching his face. "Leave? To go where?" "Anywhere that isn't here," Elian replied, his fingers tracing the delicate pattern of scales along her shoulder. "I have savings. Enough for passage to the outer colonies where mixed relationships aren't unusual. You would leave your contract." "Your career?" Lyra asked, concern evident in her voice. Elian smiled, a rare sight that transformed his usually serious face. "I've never been particularly attached to places, only 2 systems that work properly. In this system," he gestured to indicate the station, "is broken in ways I can't fix. That night, as Lyra drifted to sleep in his arms, Elian began mentally planning their departure. Neither noticed the small surveillance device recently installed in the corner of their quarters, its tiny light blinking steadily in the darkness. The notification came without warning. Elian's station access had been restricted to essential systems only, effective immediately. When he attempted to access the departure schedules, the terminal flashed red with a denial message. "It's Voss," Elian explained to Lyra as they huddled in their quarters, voices low. "He must have heard our plans. We're being contained." Lyra's eyes widened with fear. "What will they do to us?" "Nothing directly," Elian reassured her, though uncertainty crept into his voice. "But they'll make staying unbearable until we accept their terms. Separation. You back to the maintenance shafts, me finishing my contract alone." "I won't go back there," Lyra said, a fierce determination hardening her delicate features. "And I won't be separated from you." They spent the night formulating an escape plan. Elian's knowledge of the station's environmental systems provided their opportunity. A supply vessel was scheduled to dock in 2 days, bringing water filtration components. The cargo bay would be chaotic during unloading, creating a brief window for them to board before the vessel departed for its next destination, New Horizon Colony. "New Horizon accepts all species," Elian said, showing Lyra information on his personal data pad. "They need environmental engineers and radiation-resistant repair specialists. We'd both have work." The following day passed in tense preparation. They packed essentials into inconspicuous bags and exchanged some of Elian's savings for universal credit chips that would work beyond. Lyra wore a hooded jacket that concealed her distinctive purple scales, though it couldn't hide her unusual gait or the luminous quality of her eyes. On the morning of the supply vessel's arrival, they received an unexpected visitor. Tehran, a young maintenance worker who had occasionally assisted Elian, chief administrator. "Wants all quarters inspected today," Tehran announced, looking uncomfortable. Then, lowering his voice, he added, "He specifically mentioned yours would be first." "Around 1400 hours?" After Tehran left, Elian and Lyra exchanged alarmed glances. The supply vessel wasn't scheduled to dock until 1600 hours. "They know," Lyra whispered. "Then we changed the plan," Elian replied, already moving to the small maintenance hatch in their quarters, his personal entry point to the environmental control tunnels that honeycomb the station. They slipped into the narrow passageways that Lyra knew all too well from her days in isolation. This time, however, she moved with confidence, leading Elian through shortcuts to the cargo bay. They emerged in a storage closet just as alarms began blaring throughout the station. "Security alert. All personnel report suspicious activity. Repeat, security alert, ... Double quotes. The cargo bay doors were sealed, standard procedure during alerts. Elian had anticipated this possibility. He accessed a maintenance panel and rerouted the emergency protocols, causing a localized atmospheric pressure warning that automatically unsealed the doors to prevent a dangerous buildup. "We have minutes before they realize it's a false alarm," he warned as they slipped through. The supply vessel had docked early, its crew already unloading filtration components under the supervision of station personnel, now distracted by the alarms. Elian and Lyra moved through the shadows of massive cargo containers, making their way to the vessel's secondary airlock used for emergency evacuations and rarely monitored. Just as they reached it, a security officer spotted them. "Hey, stop right there." Elian pushed Lyra through the airlock first, then dove in after her, slamming his fist against the interior emergency seal button. The security officer's shouts were cut off as the airlock hissed shut. Inside the vessel, they navigated to a storage compartment filled with empty filtration component containers. It's large enough to conceal to people, but likely to be overlooked during casual inspections. As they settled into their hiding place, the vessel shuddered as it disengaged from the station. "They'll search the ship," Lyra whispered, her hand finding Elian's in the darkness. "Probably," he agreed, "but not thoroughly. Supply vessels run on tight schedules. They can't afford delays for extensive searches, especially for nonviolent offenders." The next hours passed in tense silence, broken only by distant footsteps and muffled voices as a cursory search was conducted. Eventually, the vessel's engines hummed at full capacity. indicating they had cleared Nebula Station's immediate jurisdiction. When it seemed safe, Elion cracked open their hiding place. The storage area was deserted. Using his engineering knowledge, he accessed a small terminal to check their course, indeed heading for New Horizon Colony. With an estimated arrival in 3 days, "We made it," Lyra breathed, her scales shimmering in the dim light as relief washed over her. Elion pulled her close, his fingers gently tracing the pattern of scales along her jawline. "A new beginning," he murmured, before kissing her softly. That night, nestled together in their makeshift bed of empty cargo netting, they spoke of the future. They would build a home where Lyra's scales would catch the light of a different sun, where Elion's skills would create systems that worked for everyone, and where their unusual love could flourish without shame or secrecy. As Lyra drifted to sleep against Elion's chest, she whispered a phrase in her native tongue, traditional blessing for new journeys. The musical syllables seemed to hang in the air, a promise of the life awaiting them among the stars.